everyone. BlackWitchDirah here with Black Witch Savannah.
Hey,
So thanks so much, Savannah, for doing this video with me. Much
of course,
appreciated.
it's a pleasure. I'm so excited to be talking. Like the first time I think I've done a video in public in a long, long time, and it's such a pleasure to do it with you.
Yeah, you've been away a while.
I have. Feels like it's just a minute, but yeah, I've got to start getting back on again. It's just getting back into the process
Yeah.
of making the videos. Yeah.
Mm.
But
So,
you're looking gorgeous, darling. The new red hair, and you're
thank
looking fabulous.
you.
Love
Thank
your new
you.
digs.
Thanks very much. As are you.
Thank
I
you.
swear, like, you don't. Like I don't know how long I've known you for now. It must be like over 5 years, but like
At
you don't
least.
fucking age. Like
Praise Lucifer. The Dark Lord's work is never done. I think he'll keep you alive for a while longer. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so today we're doing a Q&A. We asked you guys on both of our ends to send us in some questions.
Yep.
So I think this is going to work so that I'll pick out a few, Savannah picks out a few. So
Oh, you could just go for it. What I'll just whatever your viewers have asked, I'm more than happy to do that today, and then just gonna
wonderful.
see how much time we have.
Cool. Okay, so let's look at these questions.
Okay.
Um, someone said, how about you two doing a ritual to Lucifer together?
No problem at all, but never to the public eye.
Yeah, yeah, right. Okay. So if you could change three things about the occult community, what would it be and why?
Mm.
Um, what would I change? Um, in all honesty, I'd probably gatekeep shit a bit more. Like, just because I feel like particularly just with like this path in particular, there's this illusion of what it can bring you materially, in terms of like money, sex, etc. And I feel like that can act as an illusion into this rather than like an actual authentic, like being authentically drawn to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that needs to be like, I don't know, spoken about a little bit more. It's something I see a lot. Um,
Mm-hmm.
what else would I change? I mean, I'm quite happy in my own little bubble, to be honest.
Right. And I think I was just going to lead off what you were going to say then, because you've been doing, I think, I haven't even put my head back into the social media
Yeah,
box to see what's been going out there for a while. And that is by attention, even though both of us are witches, but I'm an occultist as well. And as an occultist, we are by ourselves. We are mainly by ourselves. And when in previous years I have jumped in or, um, I do these consultations where I'm hearing from other occultists, and I'll never speak out of turn about what anyone has to say. But there's a lot of ego happening in our community. And I think when ego gets involved with your craft, it doesn't do any justice for yourself. And so for me, when I see a lot of that happening out there and who's better and who's darker and who's stronger, or then pitching against each other, not only are you dishonoring the dark arts, you're dishonoring to me our dark gods. And the worst thing you can be doing is out there fighting with each other. So all of that infighting, I don't like. I find it a little bit embarrassing. The ego of the dark arts community, I find that quite novel, because I feel as someone entering, five decades into occultism, the more I find out, the more humble I become, because I'm shown more things, especially over the past couple of years where I've been off the mainstream. I dig deep. I'm always reflecting on how I can improve. And so to come out shooting with a place of ego and tell everyone how great I am, I feel like that is, it's not authentic to this dark arts journey, which should be a knowledge, occult, secret, private, humble, the path, your path of enlightenment. And I feel like that we lose at the dark arts community, especially. Witchcraft community, slightly different vibe. You get out there, you're talking about the herbs and oils and the occultism, and what the dark gods want is for you to sit in the background, blend in, not to be showing off, not to be grandstanding and just beating your chest. The dark arts and occult isn't for everyone. So I want people in our community just to be more reflective on that, I suppose, and work on yourself and your own personal journeys versus trying to be better than the next occultist. And I think going on to that, not to hijack this thing, because I want your opinion on this too, to stand up for your fellow occultist. You know, there's others that have been around for as long as me as well, and you'll never see me put shit on any of them because I respect them. They could be slightly different from me. That doesn't mean I'm better than them. They're better than me. One's right, one's wrong. But we must honor each other in this community for what it is, because we're all following the dark arts. We're following Lucifer. We are basically, we are showing ourselves to the world as occultists, and we should be supporting each other. There's enough people not on our path to poke sticks at if we want to poke sticks, but like I feel like that's one of the things we can improve upon, or what I would like to see improved upon.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a lot of like hostility for sure.
Yeah.
And like what you said about like the egos as well. I find that like a lot of the time, if someone's got like a super big ego, like I genuinely can't take them seriously. Like it kind of ruins the whole image for me.
Totally. Like you never see a mafia gangster go, "Hey, I'm a gangster. I've
Yeah,
got the biggest guns,"
right?
right? They're going to be there like it's cool. Like you don't even know they're sitting there. You know they're there because they've got their presence, but they're not going to say who they are or what they do. And that's when you get big enough. You don't have to do that. You're very comfortable. You're humble in your knowledge. You're very respectful because you realize how big our gods are, and you realize our place in this little universe. I feel like if you're humble and you're respectful, you get a lot further.
Yeah, also if like I feel like if you're concerned about your image as an occultist and how you come across and whether people and how people see you, whether they see you as someone that could be fucked with or someone not to fuck with, I feel like the best way to put yourself out there is kind of like make out that you know your shit, but don't tell everyone everything you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you want people to see that like, you know your shit, you're good at what you do, but you don't want them to know the full extent of what you can do because then you're just giving your power away.
Right.
And it's also kind of like a jealousy thing as well, because
Right. Keyword there.
yeah, like if you're showing kind of too much about like yourself and it affects another person's ego because they're seeing you as somehow superior in some way or whatever, and it's affecting how they feel about themselves, then it leaves you more open to some kind of attack, whether that's like you being shat on social media or someone actually kind of throwing something your way, because people are batshit. Like they just are. So
And sometimes, look, I can be, as an Aquarius, I can be top of that crazy bucket too from time to time. But I really think we've got to support those in our community as much as possible. But you work with clients too. There's certain levels of clients that are very dangerous to work with, and what are poke holes in our community or coming in just for their own specific petition or goal. And when they don't get it, they not only try and take you down, but take down the community as well. but that's just a risk of offering your services out to the general public itself.
Yeah, it's tricky. Like for me, like I've got some clients that I've worked with for a long time that I really, really love. I've built like a really good kind of relationship with them in that way.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I've had some that are an absolute fucking pain in my ass. Like,
I mean, that's life, isn't it? You
yeah.
know, no matter what job you have, you've got people that you deal with and others that don't appreciate it. In marketing, we call it the A, B, C, and D clients. And I tell my group, of course, the A's love you no matter what. The B's kind of like you, but if you piss them off, they'll go somewhere else. And we don't want the C, D grade clients because normally they don't appreciate what we do. They don't understand what we do, and they're going to shit all over you and cause lots of problems. And it's very hard to get around all of that. But we personally like to deal with people that have respect for magic, have respect for occultism, and understand. Look, I don't care what you believe in, to be honest. So long as you're respectful, having respect is extremely important to me. And that goes onwards. The way I pay that forward as well as helping others, like the newcomers or people a little bit younger in our community, holding space for them. Definitely respecting our ancestors in this community and understanding where we've all come from, and holding support for that. And other occultists, we all make mistakes. We all have a bad day. We all do something stupid from time to time, and not to persecute someone for one shitty thing, you know. So it goes back to, you know, being a little bit humble, understanding we're asking, if we're all occultists working with demons, not to try and pitch demons against each other, because that's not going to work anyways. And I just feel like it's really embarrassing. So that's something in occultism that should change.
Totally.
And it won't change.
Yeah, no, it won't. Right. Let's look at what else you got. Someone's asked about ceremonial magic versus modern spells, and by modern spells, I'm assuming spells that don't take maybe a traditional approach. I'm not really sure like what that's asking, but I suppose it's asking about like what's the benefit of ceremonial magic versus like just, you know, whatever other approach you want to take. Like what I'd say about like ceremonial magic is like it's there. It like I'm not someone that's gonna like shit on ceremonial magic, because essentially like a lot of the stuff that the foundational texts that we work with in demonology, like the Lesky of Solomon, is essentially like ceremonial magic, right? So you know, we've kind of got to respect the root of that in a way, because it's helped us evolve into demonology like we have. But in terms of the necessity of the all like the fucking measures that you've got to take when doing ceremonial magic, it's like if you want a result, in this day and age, you're gonna look for the quickest way to probably get that. Ceremonial magic is like I've done it in groups and it is cool. It's not something that like I'm gonna do all the time, because I've got other things I want to do with my day, and you know, I'm quite busy. So yeah, I mean, versus like in terms of like the results and the outcomes of this stuff, it's not that like I wouldn't say it's a case of like things being more effective than the other necessarily. I think ceremonial magic is really cool if you're in a group, and it's not necessarily about like an end result of a ritual. It's just more of like a rite than, you know, trying to obtain something. But you know, like I'm not about to do ceremonial magic around things that I want to try and like bring about in my life or manifest, because I know that there's quicker and easier ways of doing that. And the ways that in which these older grimoires are written, like there's some really specific things in terms of like how you need to measure out your ritual space, and this goes here, and this is X amount of centimeters wide and or inches or whatever they've written, like or you need to make this thing out of some thread cut by a virgin girl, and like things like
Love a
that,
good
you know?
version.
So I think ceremonial magic can be adapted somewhat now and to make it a little bit more like realistic. But yeah, I mean it's an approach at the end of the day, and I think it has its place, but it's definitely not like I wouldn't recommend like someone just getting into like witchcraft and occultism to be like, oh yeah, do ceremonial magic. Like, fuck no.
Oh, it's really like two different pathways, isn't it? And so I suppose witchcraft is its own pathway, and ceremonial magic is definitely its own pathway. And so sometimes if people are brand new into the idea of the magical world, and all of these concepts can kind of sound very, it's all magic, but ceremonial magic takes years to perfect, and
Mm,
it's ritual based. There's very, like you were saying, lots of tools and preparation of those tools, but it's also remembering a lots of specific steps done in specific sequences,
mm,
summoning specific a lot of times it's like more angelic creatures in specific corners. Even with the old Goetia rituals, there's lots of safety measures. And
mm,
so if you're really into, if your personality type does enjoy having something that is more ritual based, procedural based, um, something almost scientific, I would argue that if you follow this recipe, that and you do it frequently enough, that you will be able to get some level of result. It's
mm,
like, for example, drawing spirits into crystals. If you follow this, you will get a result. And there is the essence or the idea of having protection around you. So this is really um, desirable if you're brand new to magic, whereas witchcraft is something very, very different. You don't have to have a lot of skill, but also the learning has to come, I would say, from understanding what the effect of the elements are, or the different objects within those elements, and how to work it, uh, draw the energy from that versus the ritual, um, which can be faster. But if the way you think about things is logically, then witchcraft isn't going to float your boat. It's going to seem like a hodgepodge of um, just girly shit going on. And sometimes it is. And I love that about witchcraft. Get in my herbs and my this and that and the other. But I've had a huge history in ceremonial magic. And I feel like that's why I can run off and do whatever I wanted to do, because I've learned how to um, walk and then run and then freestyle. So I can't say just skip it all, because I think sometimes when you do skip a lot of the steps, when you're doing parts of rituals, like that's when people start to have spiritual challenges, or
mm,
you're opening portals, or you're not grounding properly, or you're not doing something, and shit can happen, especially in ceremonial magic rituals. We're contacting these higher frequencies. In witchcraft, you don't have to do that.
mm,
So that's to the answer to that person's question. It really goes to your own comfort level, and what you're really willing to put in there. Are you ready to do it years and years of study in order to get that result through ceremonial magic, or just balls to wall freestyle it and jump straight into something like what we're doing in occultism or witchcraft? But
mm,
whatever you're doing, I would say you're not going to have any success unless you um, repeat what you're doing on a consistent basis. It's never about opening one spell book, doing a spell and getting a result. Never, ever, ever. And I feel like that's one of the assumptions with magic. It doesn't matter which book that you buy. I would challenge anyone that they're not going to get you've got to understand the way energy works. whether it's ceremonial magic or witchcraft or some other magical system.
Totally. Yeah. I do like I think it's so with it's quite funny to me, like the idea of me like suddenly like considering like how I work with demons now and it being just like very, you know, once you do it for a certain amount of time it becomes relatively easy to be able to do.
Yes.
So I kind of imagine myself doing this like ceremonial magic ritual, and then like within like 5 minutes while I'm still setting it up, like the demon's already like, dude, I'm already here. Like you might as well not
Right.
bother.
That's very, very true. And years ago, because especially when you're drawing them into a specific, for example, the triangle or something like that, in reality, they're not going to probably be in that triangle. They're already in the room. You've already opened up the gateways, and you've already got your guardians at the quarters, and now you're summoning something specific. He's in the background already, but still, it's like, oh, okay, I've got to like follow it through, and then you
Yeah.
da da da. Look, for the pulp and the ceremony, I really, it really had its time. It served its purpose for a moment, and I feel, especially back then, right when I was getting all my programs together 15 years ago or something, and there was nobody out there freestyling. I had to get really creative, like so. Yeah, I can't put shit on ceremonial magic because I did enjoy, but for everyone new coming into magic, there's so many people now that have been experimental that you don't have to do that dance if you don't want to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think ceremonial magic is really cool. It's just like,
Exhausting.
yeah, literally.
And time consuming.
Yeah, so time consuming. Um, just looking at some ones I got on YouTube.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of people are just asking, where have you been, Savannah?
Where have I been? Yeah, that's a good question.
Everyone's just like, where have you been?
Being crazy.
So we've been asked if we could talk about self-care in terms of like fitness, lifestyle, improving your craft,
All right, let's talk about
yoga.
that first, like fitness, because that's something that I'm passionate about.
Yeah,
So
me too.
fitness in now, this is I've got to watch my little Savannah mouth here because I don't want to upset your viewers.
No, do you know
I'm a
what I love about this is because like me being from the UK and you being Australian, I do just feel like we're a little bit more like cut the shit and just like
Yeah, yeah,
that kind
that's
of
right.
approach.
Very true. And even my American mates, like anyone that hangs with me has to understand the dark humor of the
Yeah, yeah,
Australian pommy, sort of like the way we talk. And even when you're really good mates, it's like taking the piss out of each other type
yeah.
of thing means you're
It's
actually
a love
closer, which
language.
is a little different. It's a love language, which is awesome. But I talk about this even with my group and how that this is our vessel, right? And all this energy is either coming in or out of this vessel. And even when we're inviting spirits, whether they're inviting them inside the vessel or around the vessel has to be one of your strongest tools. Now, I'm not saying you have to look like a rock star or be sexy or be dark or wear some type of goth aesthetic or whatever you want to look like. It doesn't matter. But what you really have to do is have that your vessel as healthy as it can be. So for me, doing the type of magic I do, and um, casting for other people, I have to make sure this vessel is in tip-top shape, not only to protect myself from all the crap that anyone that's spoken to me over the years knows how important it is for protection, number one. And I always assume there's shit coming my way. I don't even doubt that it doesn't, and I'd be surprised if it wasn't, right? Because I've been an occultist online for over a decade. I do crazy castings. I'm summoning spirits from all different systems. So I'm assuming there's some shit around. So if I don't keep this vessel tight and make sure it's running to the best of my ability, I'm going to be taken out without a doubt. Secondly, to be able to raise energy and get a result, I need to make sure that I'm strong, that I'm bouncing around. And anyone in my group knows my energy is like I don't know, a 5-year-old damn kid. And so even when I'm back in Australia visiting my grandkids, my daughter is just like, please, Mum, take them out to the bouncy park because I'm on the trampolines going freaking nuts, right? Because my energy is so high. And the reason, so I go to the gym to answer this question. I go to the gym, I lift weights a couple of times a week. Of course, I have my, my lifestyle. I party hard. I study hard. I go to those extremes, but I make sure that my vessel is in really good shape. So I'm doing cardio nearly every day or every other day. Even on days where I'm feeling like shit, I'm going to be doing something just to raise the heart rate, whatever that may be. But I'm gonna make sure this vessel's tight, because if you're a lounge lizard, if you're eating shit all the time and you're feeling lethargic, you're not going to raise any energy. And I know this offends some people, and it's not about that. Listen, Lady Hannah she was 300 pounds. She dropped down to what she is now, which is thinner than what you and I are. And she'll even say, as a fat person, I couldn't raise energy. Right. And it's very hard to raise energy when you're not looking after your vessel. So just remember that if you're struggling in magic, to your people out there, then really look at how you feel energetically, because we can't, especially in occultism, we can't expect these spirits to operate through us or to connect with us and to create change if we're not looking after ourselves. Now I'm going to shut up. What do you think?
No, I agree entirely. And I think that like it's about like respecting your vessel as well, like having the self-respect to take care of yourself.
Right.
It's interesting because before this call I was on the phone with my mum, and so long story short, I'm currently preparing for a bikini competition.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. And yeah, I mean it's so taxing, because like being the time out of my competition that I am now, it's not far away. There's a lot of training, my food is reduced, and I'm pretty fucking tired most of the time.
Right, I bet.
And my mum said to me, she was like, I just don't think this is healthy. I was like, I know it's not fucking, it's not, there's nothing about competing that is healthy. Like it's not healthy, but what it is, it's like, it's discipline.
Oh yeah, it's discipline. What a great word. Yeah.
Yeah, it's discipline. And the thing is like, if you are an occultist, you do need to have discipline, because otherwise shit's not going to get done.
Right.
Because you can't go through life not doing things because you don't feel like it. And in a way, this is like my discipline in the physical realm. So that, I'm doing my discipline stuff in the spiritual, and I want to do something that's like, my discipline in the physical as well. So yeah, things like fitness are really important to me, and they do help me. It does help me spiritually because, like I said, I'm looking after my body. Debatable at the moment because I'm dropping, trying to drop the body fat, but it's temporary. I'm not gonna. It's show day and bam, I'll be fucking indulging.
Man, you got to send me some pictures, because I just love that shit. Bikini girl with a cult chick, man. That's awesome. Congratulations. And you know what else I love about it? That something I've been, over the years I've been speaking with you about, is having that balance. Because as a younger occultist too, and I feel like you're so passionate about it, and that others of your age group as well, have some balance, because it's so consuming, isn't it? Like occultism is so consuming, and especially when you start to get results and you're speaking to the spirit, Man, it's like walking into a toy shop and having every toy that you love on the shelf. And so your day-to-day life, you work, you get home, and you can just be reading books and doing rituals and da da da, and your whole life becomes just consumed with magic. And then you don't have any balance. And
Mm.
so I just love that, when people go off and they have their own other little mission that they're doing.
Yeah, no, it's so important. It really is.
Yeah.
Like it's, this stuff, the occult, it's still pretty much the center of my life and probably always
Yeah, of
will be.
course.
But
Yeah.
we're still human at the end of the day, and we're here to have a human
Yes.
experience, and we need to
Yeah.
enjoy that and, strive for these goals and just, try and make the most of this time that we have.
So true. Yeah.
And
I
yeah,
love that we're having a human experience and we've got to appreciate and enjoy that. Yeah,
yeah,
that's so
yeah, we
true.
do. And yeah, no, like you can get just so lost in I remember the first, like when the lockdowns first happened, and
Oh yeah.
because like not like I'm quite introverted anyway, but like there was no
Yeah.
there was
That's
like
not what I've heard.
I'm an extroverted introvert.
Oh, that makes sense.
So yeah, and I remember like because there was like fuck all else to do. You couldn't go to the gym, you couldn't hang out with anyone.
Yeah.
I just went all in, reading all the time, doing like, fucking hanging out in the woods by myself. And I mean it was kind of fucking great, but it was just like that. Um it's consuming.
Yeah,
So,
totally, totally.
yeah.
So that's what we think about the body.
Yeah, that's what we think about fitness and how important that is.
And look, I'm not fat shaming, but I'm just saying, if you're a bigger person right now, are you getting the results that you want to get? And if you're not, then do something about it. And so I'm not of a generation that minces my words when it comes to that. When you've got too much weight on you, obviously it's clogging up a lot of your organs. I would challenge that your aura chakras are working effectively and that you're feeling good about yourself. So you can be a bigger witch or bigger occultist, but if you've got all of that in check, that's fine. But if you don't, then it's okay. You don't have to talk about it online, social media. Just get on and do it yourself and give yourself a little challenge. And look, and if it doesn't work, come over to come over to my social media and tell me I'm full of shit. I'm a big girl. I can handle it. Or tell me what you're doing to feel so good as a bigger person. I'm happy to have that dialogue. In fact, from my group, Miss Mel is passionate about that. Miss Melinda, who does the hoodoo stuff, so passionate about it right now because she was once a huge girl. She's lost all the weight. She understands. So a lot of us have lost a lot of weight, and we kind of know what we're talking about when it comes here, and so it's a huge part of being successful in magic. Sorry.
I fucking love
Sorry,
you.
not sorry.
Amazing. Oh, fucking brilliant. Oh, this is quite an interesting one.
Okay.
My question is about spiritual awakening. I feel crazy at times. Can you share your experiences on your awakening and how to feel like you are not in psychosis?
Oof. You go first. Do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
So I'll go first. So, I think that if you are questioning whether you are in psychosis, you're probably not in psychosis. Because a symptom of psychosis is not knowing that, because like you are so deep in that delusion that you don't know that you're in psychosis. Spiritual awakenings can be really fucking scary. For me, I've had experiences, particularly with clipothic work. When I was in the Khalifa of Samael and doing some work there, and having when you have illusions breaking down and your reality changes, that can be really fucking overwhelming for your brain to handle, because it's like, oh my God, like my perception has completely changed. You can end up falling into like an identity crisis or like a spiritual crisis, a path crisis. Like I don't even know what I believe anymore. That was very much my experience. And this was like late 2022. I had this where I basically just felt fucking mental. And things just felt like they weren't really real. And I was really fucking scared because I did think that I was losing my mind. But I think me being worried about losing my mind was reassurance that I hadn't, because obviously there was still that cling to reality there where it was sort of like, okay, I know that I'm, I'm still real and that I'm just going through a kind of spiritual death, essentially.
Right. Yeah.
So how to know that you're not? I don't, I don't have the credentials to tell you that you're not. But I can only speak on my experience is that when I when I'm worried about going crazy, I'm probably not crazy. But I think like on the topic of psychosis, I do think that it's it's a thing where, like, for example, if I have a client and they are exhibiting, like they're telling me that they're hearing voices and that that's why they've come to me, ethically, I feel like I can't move forward with that.
Right. That's very good. Very, very good. Yeah.
Because I don't, and they get I had one recently that was really annoyed by me saying that, and she was really offended that
Yeah.
I said, you do know that hearing voices is a symptom of schizophrenia, and that makes me concerned, and that I don't want to move forward because that's ethically compromising.
Correct.
She was like, oh, how dare you, I'm so insulted. I was just like, it's not my problem. It's not my problem that you're insulted. Like, a lot of people don't have that duty of care. A lot of people would be taking advantage of you right now and taking your money, and I'm not.
Right. Right.
But yeah, like it's difficult. Like when you have a client and they're exhibiting signs of mental illness, you do kind of have to sort of take a step back, because the thing is like you can't fuck around with this shit. Like what you're doing for them could actually make them fucking worse. So,
Good.
and you
Yeah.
don't want to be feeding into a potential delusion that they have.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
So could you, if is the question there again? I just want to make sure that I understood it properly. Is it up there for you?
Yes, it is. So my question is about spiritual awakening. I feel crazy at times. Can you share your experiences on awakening and how to not feel like you're in psychosis?
Right. Okay. So that's multi-layered question. So I'll do the best I can because um, so spiritual awakening is kind of one thing, and the feeling like you're in a psychosis or hearing voices is kind of like a different area once again. But I've had some clients this week who have gone, they are feeling they're in occultism, and they're feeling like they are hitting up that psychosis wall. And you are correct, like unless you actually are a mental health practitioner, very ethical of you is to say, listen, I this is like hit the wall of my ability, and I feel like if you have your career or any of the other occultists out listening to this, you need to back down. Just because you're reading tarot cards or someone's coming to your advice, just realize that a mental health professional has had 8 to 12 years of education apart, and then a lot of clinical training behind that to be able to give advice. And even, for example, as you know, myself as a clinical psychologist, I still don't diagnose. I still don't provide a treatment program to someone when I'm giving witchcraft advice, because that in itself is unethical. So I'll say you need to go off and seek proper advice. However, there are things that I can and share, because a lot of times in occultism, or when you get into occultism, you are literally hearing voices, and that you could be schizophrenic. maybe that's on that pathway. However, when spirits do start to speak to you, if that is one of your gifts, it can make you feel freaking crazy. I would say, without, being able to give a therapy session to somebody, or even a spiritual session to someone, it's really, what are those voices telling you to do? And so if it's something really negative, then you probably have to understand that in occultism, or actually even witchcraft, or even if you're in a church praying to someone, you're opening different portals and different spiritual doors, and you're always going to be attracting, I like to call them those Klingon type of spiritual entities. So even if I'm summoning Lucifer, right, I'm vibrating. The way I speak about this is I'm vibrating at such a high frequency. Lucifer's at a high frequency that any of the other spirits that are attracted around us aren't hitting our frequency. I'm not affected. I'm not hearing anything else but what I want to hear. But if you're not quite at that level, and you're just new to magic, you could be picking up all of these other things. Some of them will be trickster spirits, as you're talking about spiritual awakenings and so forth. These trickster spirits are going to be telling you really funny things, because we're funny creatures. We're humans. We do lots of crazy shit. And I can only imagine, if I was in the spiritual realm, if a human summoned me, I would be taking the piss out. I would be having a Monty Python field day with fucking around with people, like, without a doubt. I'm not going to go, oh, what do you want, baby? Let me give you like $1 million and a huge dick. Like, that's just not going to happen. I'd give him a teensy tiny dick and say, you know what, you haven't prayed to me for long enough. Now get your little ass out of here. That's my sense of humor. But so it goes down to feelings. If you're not summoning spirits and you're hearing voices, then yes. The trouble is too, once you go into in the USA, if you're in corporate or some organization, you go into their healthcare system, you start getting little notes against your file that you're hearing voices and shit. It has other consequences. So my advice is to get yourself cleansed. There's lots of spiritual cleansing services. Just have yourself spiritually assessed and see if it is a trickster spirit. See if it's something else that's attached to you that shouldn't be there. If it's part of your spiritual awakening pathway and you've never heard one of our wonderful spirits talk to you, and you don't always, by the way, it just depends, it depends on your spiritual gift, if you can actually hear them or not. Sometimes you can sense them by one of your other senses. But you've got to check that out. Check it out with a spiritual practitioner who does cleansing services, or who understands if there's spiritual attachments or not, and see if it's negative or not. If it's not negative and you're not crazy, then it's just take lots of notes, note down when you heard this spirit, and then start doing more divination to see how you connect with it. And the same with the spiritual awakening. I just took a note when you were talking, not to bog down your time here, but I said a lot of people really today in our society, we're rushing through it. We're rushing through. We read a book, we want to apply it and have that result like so quickly. And when you're having a spiritual awakening, this means that you've either read so much, or you've found out so much, and you're putting in those actions, and you're receiving the benefit of whatever you're trying to do, and you haven't had time to process it. And so you can feel dissonant between when you've learned something, when you've applied something, and try to put it in some type of logic that is going to hit your brain. And so just slow down. Don't learn anything else. Don't take on new knowledge until you're able to work out what it is you're going through at that time. Even if it takes you a year or 2 years or 3 years, it's better to understand what you've just done than go through it and think, don't have enough time to apply it. And then you're going to think, oh, this is all shit, and magic sucks, or it's too scary, or I didn't want to actually look at my shadow self. And you've got to toss it all away and think, just throw the whole industry down in the social media shithole. But, if you slow down, stop telling everyone what you're doing. Who cares that you've got a master of grand crystal making, or blah, 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 whatever fucking title. It doesn't matter. That's my opinion anyways. But so that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. Should we do one more?
Sure, let's do it.
Let's do one more. What does it feel like to look back at your craft's evolution from where you are now?
Yeah, a long fucking time ago. After you, my dear.
What does it feel like? I mean, I genuinely believe that like this stuff changes you right down to like a molecular level.
Oh yeah.
And that you kind of die a lot actually. Like, so yeah, I mean, I honestly I don't recognize myself when I look at myself when I started. You know, even like a year ago, I don't. The growth on this path is really rapid. And it can be quite savage as well. It's kind of like spirituality on crack. It's like
Yeah.
with with the creation comes destruction. But yeah, I mean, it's been an increase in self-awareness, in humility, and confidence.
Mm.
And yeah, I mean, I'm also aware of just like how far I have to go as well, because like it's not going to end, which is amazing and exhausting. So
It's so true. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You'll be able to do it. You'll be fine. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I can still I still have sometimes I feel like the more I learn, the less I feel like I know.
That's
Uh,
that's when you know you're doing the hard work.
yeah,
When you have that. Yep. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you know, I still have my moments where I can be pretty like naive and sometimes a demon will have to really kind of spell shit out for me. Like really kind of just like, look, this is how it is. And I'm just like, oh right, okay, I get it now. Like sometimes it's just one of those.
Wow. I had one. I was in a consultation yesterday, and this is one of my new gifts, right? And because my gifts have changed from almost over each decade, it's something new, so I never quite know what to expect. And so now it seems I can be sometimes, not all the time, and I can't turn this on and off. But if I call to one of them, especially if I've been working with one of the night before, and then a client happens to be asking about that, it seems like they're still somewhere in the background.
Mm.
And then they'll be chirping in when I'm talking to the person. And so the person's asked me questions, and then the spirit, of course, this is, understands and will start talking or basically answering it in its own way, because they don't talk like we're speaking now. They speak in my ear weird. And so sometimes I forget, am I talking to the spirit? Because that's all by telepathy, right? So I'm talking by telepathy. And then to the client, so I'm asking questions to the client, and so I'll get all confused who I'm talking to. So the client started laughing. They go, "You weren't talking to me right then, were you?" And I said, "Oh shit, no, I was talking." Then everyone's laughing. The spirits are laughing. That like I'm like, yeah, that's fine. Have a laugh, everyone. Like I'm still such a noob. I'm still so eternally a student, not really quite knowing, fumbling around. And I kind of like that. It's like that Columbo, you know, that old detective that scratches his head but still asks all these questions and just gets on with it and somehow comes out with a result at the end. That's how I can surmise my journey of occultism right now. And I feel like because I am curious, vulnerable, stay humble, I can be a little bit more freestyling and allow my gifts to change. So for me, I didn't have the pressures in a, you know, we can talk about this in a different video down the track, the differences between the generations, where I didn't have the pressure that you're going to have or have, um, putting myself out there, because there's so much judgment now with how you look, how you present yourself. Like, versus me, I could spend decades just learning the craft without criticism or judgment, and not having any pressure to perform, right? So coming into it just before things had a name, you know, so it's like, I don't give a shit what you call me, really, so long as I'm conducting energy and getting a result. But there wasn't a time crunch. And I feel like today we have expectations of ourselves, judgment of other people, this idea of perfectionism in our looks and our craft. I mean, no wonder people have burnout and they're fucking exhausted. You know, always been on the stage. And well, you know, I'll talk about this later on as well, but that's why over the years, you know, I'll take a couple of months off and go sit my ass on a beach in Hawaii and just tune in with the Hawaiian gods, just allowing the ocean spirits just to like cleanse me, and like spiritual and mental health breaks. Past couple of years, I was going to come back last year. I wasn't ready, not because I was weak or something. I was doing me, right? I didn't want all the other pressures and the shit. And to be honest, every time I jump back into the social world and look what was going on, I'm like, fuck, people exhaust me with their bullshit, are exhausting with the shit that people are fighting about. And so I don't want to get involved with that. So my group says, Savannah, just please stay off. Please stay off, because we're going to have to. My opinions on certain things are so strong. And what does it matter if I get involved in an argument or not? You know, to me, it just doesn't matter. I've got to look after myself and not worry about what other people think. And I think if people were happier and more satisfied in themselves and what they were achieving, they'd be less critical of other people. So, so that's, you know, talking about, you know, how to maintain yourself over the decades. That's, I feel like, having a little tune out, just doing you, living your life, is very, very important, and not having to worry about the opinions of other people. That's what's kept me sane over the years.
Yeah, totally. And it's interesting what you said about like new gifts emerging as well. It's so cool. And I was just, oh my God, I didn't know I could do that. Like,
yeah,
at the moment, what I'm trying to do is just, I'm kind of like challenging myself in the sense that I'm trying to rely on myself almost entirely without having to rely on like tools, especially when it comes to divination.
yes, yep.
So, you know, I feel like a lot of people can end up like really depending on tarot for divination, and they don't explore other options. I'm purely just trying to use like what's going on here. And
yes, you've always been very talented with that, though. Years ago, I remember, and I was always impressed, like how connected you were with the spirits. I'm like, go, girl, like go for it. You're like, I always love that about you.
Oh, thank you. And I'm also trying to do it with like channeling demons as well, like, because I feel like you know, you can have the candles and the incense and everything, and then, you know, it helps because, like, you know, correspondences, they add to the symbolic value of what you're doing. But ultimately, the only tool you really need in magic is yourself. And at the end of the day, if you're out somewhere and you don't have your shit with you, you know, you've got to be able to rely on you.
Right.
So
Right.
I've been
I mean, that's pure black magic. You don't have it. It's just the mind.
Mm.
It does take a long time and a lot of dedication to get there.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, totally.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's credit to you and your dedication to the dark arts that, and, because you are totally dedicated. And, but, if people are like, they have the normal jobs and they can't dedicate it, they're at home, to use a tool to help conduct that energy. I I say to my guys, like, don't feel like you're not all that. It's just that we've had time
Yeah.
to apply that level of gift and to throw yourself, like, if you're not doing that shadow work, it's very hard for you just to use a tool because there's those many challenges that you have to get through,
Mm.
your
Yeah.
own psychological barriers.
Yeah. Like this shit takes time. It takes a lot of time. And it's funny you spoke about like normal jobs and stuff. I find that whenever I've tried to do anything normal, the occult will pull me out of it and pull me deeper into it. Like it's just always how it's happened. Like anything that takes my attention away and maybe I'm not dedicating myself so much, it will like something will remove it.
Right.
It's okay if I'm doing things, I'm still applying as much dedication as I usually would, but if I start dropping shit,
Mhm.
whatever I'm like focusing on that's like external, that shit usually leaves my life in one way or another. It's quite scary,
They put you
actually.
back on the path.
Yeah, yeah. Which is why, like, whenever I start getting attached to something, I'm like scared that I'll lose it.
Uh-oh.
So yeah.
All right. So is that all the questions for today?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
yeah, so thank you so much again for
Of
doing this with me. It's
course.
so
This has been
lovely
fun.
to have this chat.
Yeah.
And yeah, hopefully see you back on the socials soon.
Yes, yes, I've got to get out there. So thank you for breaking me in, getting me back here, kicking and screaming. No, you don't. Well, it was such a pleasure to have a chat.
Yeah, no, lovely. Thanks so much, Han. And thank you guys to everyone who sent in their questions and for watching. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye for now.
Awesome.